board. So just FYI, start that over again.
Okay, so I know this is going to be very just because it's real time happening in the news, real life events. But I was thinking about this as all the news is coming out and everything that you see with what has happened with this hurricane. And I was like, what would I actually do if my entire office was just swept away and like my office as it sits right now? Like I'm looking around myself, like I know we're an online remote business, but I still have very functional things in this office. Like, what would I actually do? And not even thinking about if it was my house that got swept away too, but just my office, like my business. And I'm thinking about these business owners just watching their business literally just be carried away, and they can there's no stopping it. Like, what would you do? Would you actually rebuild? Like, would you come out of that and say, I think I want to do this business all over again? I don't really know. Like, would I want to? And I'm just thinking about the devastation for everything that these business owners has put in.
Yeah.
To watch it slide down a mountain. I feel so bad. It's gut wrenching. But then I came to the business side and I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, my hearts go out to everyone out there. I have a cousin who lives in Asheville, North Carolina, where a lot of this is going on. And luckily, the worst that they've experienced is a tree on the house. Unfortunately, they can't live there. They've had to go elsewhere. And it's funny because what was it, last week? Was it last week? A couple of days ago? I don't even remember anymore. I got texts from my family like, hey, we don't use Airbnb. We need to find a place for them to stay. And there I am, doing all of that, searching for places, like messaging, people who own those places. Do you have power? Do you have power? Do you have power? Do you have power? Hey, do you have power? Luckily there's someplace safe with power and everything. So, cousin and my nieces, nephews with you. I hope everybody's still good. Hope you're well. But, as it relates to a business, I don't know. My number one question is do I like what I do?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean to make this a joke, and that wasn't a joke. That was number one. There's so many people that start businesses not realizing whether they like it or not, thinking they do. But number two is, one, this is partially why bankruptcy court exists at this point too, is to help with this kind of thing. I know there's going to be a lot of relief, but I'm half stalling here, putting my thoughts together here just a little bit with all of that, because if you're a brick and mortar shop, or if you are somebody doing services that's local, because I know there's a lot of adventure businesses out there and located to the area, fishing, and we're going to go, they're in the mountains. We're going to go hunting, or we're going to do, all of this. Well,
I'm even thinking builders, and you've got
construction, builders, repair. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
You've had inventory lost, but that's where insurance comes in. Yes, you have to wait for all that to come in, and whenever these large events happen, it's a little bit slower than others because these insurance companies are getting hit so hard, and there's usually some federal whatever that has to happen
but you're holding your breath that you were insured for this type of event. It's
right. Yeah. And there's so many places now that aren't insured for this type of thing because it happens so often. So I don't know. I kind of think about it as where, and I think this is going into the topic this is the topic you want to talk about, is resiliency of a business. Is are you set up in the face of disaster to continue to operate, and with or without whatever gap there may be, that you're willing to take. I think that I'm of the sort that I don't want anything super physical. So personally would be whatever business I create, whether I have a brick and mortar, it has some digital end, and I have some piece to it that doesn't rely on physical location. So that's just the type of business I'm setting up. Unfortunately for many, they have inventory, they're retail shops. They have to wait until waters recede they have to hope that insurance companies, et cetera, are going to honor whatever promises they made and that they bought the right policy. I know resiliency goes way further than what I'm talking about. And I know it's a topic that's pretty top of mind for you because it goes beyond just this kind of a travesty. It's also, there's death. There's what if you just have an accident? What if you're in the hospital for a bit? Like, you still have to make money for yourself to live. But if you're not doing the work, is there someone to take over? So there's a lot of things that come to mind. I don't know. Is there a place that you would want to start on that topic? I do have a lot that hits me, but where do you want to start?
This is like a multi-dimensional. I don't even know if we'll get through it in a whole episode, but
yeah, right.
And I think I've mentioned it before. So I have, and it's not complete, which this also made me think of this more, but I have a plan for our business, and I won't swear on this podcast because I don't know if we've ever talked about if we are like scheduled for that. So I'll call it when the sheet hits the fan plan, right? But it's so surface level. Like, it's enough that my team could get through. My husband would know what to do if something catastrophic happened to me. But like this level, or I was even thinking, like, would it cover enough if there was something as horrible as like a fire or even a tornado that we could get or anything else? Like, and what if I didn't have internet for 5 days, 7 days, 10 days? What if I couldn't get to internet?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
I think the way I think about it, it's similar to the way you're thinking about it is we have, number one is just day-to-day operations. Do we have those documented in a way where people will and know what they have to do day to day just to keep things running? Okay. Great. So that if I'm not there for a few days, things will at least run, and then from there, you just have these concentric circles. I think is the way I would approach it, is like, okay, 2 days, am I set? 7 days, what has to happen? Then go out from that, a month, like the rest of the month. Then from there, 6 months. And then from there, a whole year. Like, what do I have, concentric circles, do I have to think about and have in place to allow things to work if I'm out of the pocket for that long? That's one way to look at it. So that kind of hits me. And me and Jenny, we've talked about that quite a bit as to what would happen. Part of our plan includes paying for VAs, to pick up slack in certain areas, or hiring, or et cetera. There's plenty of other things that we've kind of put in place, leaning on some partners that we have, et cetera, to make sure stuff keeps running in terms of stuff for clients. On another front is, like you said, what about disaster? I don't have access to things. I'm able to work, but I'm just not there. Like, what happens next? So I think that's business to business type is where I kind of fall on that. Is if I'm retail, okay, what are the things to retail I need to think about? Is like, I don't have inventory anymore. What do I do next? Can I get inventory to sell and keep selling? Am I able to sell online or in a way where I don't need that brick and mortar store? And do my people know about it? I think, again, it's concentric circles. What if my storefront is not available for 2 days? What if it's not available for 7, for a month, for 6, and what would be the things I would want in place to guard me against that kind of liability, et cetera? I think those are the ways that I would think about it. I don't know. Do you think about it similarly? Or are there other things that come to mind for you?
I think for our business specific, I think very similar to you. So I agree with everything you were just saying. For our business specific, I think to the point, like, let's pretend like I didn't have a team, and a lot of business owners find themselves maybe in that scenario. Like, if I wasn't able to communicate with my clients, or like we were literally without a way to communicate with anybody, I just think about what would happen. Like, we have so many time sensitive things for our industry. Like, I think payroll, right? Now you're talking about people not getting paid. Like, will it be okay at the end of the day? Yes. Like, it will all work out. But like, what does it look like when you cannot communicate with your clients that you literally are not able to do what they are expecting that you're doing. Like it kind of put me in that panic mode of like, how would I tell them? Like, there's no carrier pigeons. Like, I'm not going to just send any, you know what I mean? So that's kind of where I went. And I don't know that you can always plan for every situation.
No, definitely.
And I think there are things that you actually would not have a solution for. And I just have to be okay with that and just pray that I'm never in that circumstance. And if I am, then I'm in there for a reason. And my clients will hopefully eventually hear from me and we'll sort it all out at the end.
Yeah.
So I think there's a way that not only does your business have to be resilient, but I think you as a person has to be resilient and like okay with the fact you're never going to have a plan for everything. Do the best you can. Plan for what you can. Don't ignore it. Plan for what you can. And whatever's supposed to happen is going to happen at the end of it. So
no, I agree with you. You can't plan for everything because it's like, hey, I live in Michigan. We don't have avalanches, but we might have mudslides or something similar. Maybe. I don't know, but I don't even know how to like whatever. That's like almost impossible. You know, it's one of those kind of like, that's an uncertainty kind of thing where I'm like, I don't know that I'm going to plan for that one because that's so much thought and worry over something that is so unlikely. So just accepting uncertainty for certain things that are low on the totem pole, but there's certain things that, you know, we can develop questions around, you know, what are the ways in which our business can fail, you know, or what are ways in which, and I don't mean fail like making mistakes. I just mean in ways of like a bridge failing, like a piece is like out of sync or a machine where like a part breaks, you know. I think that's the way to think about it. When a part in a machine breaks, the machine doesn't work anymore. What are all those parts that can break within the company? Do we have plans for what will happen? For instance, just the other day in the news, what was it? Bank of America, people couldn't see their bank accounts or take money out, you know, and how many days was that going to go? People saw zero balances. People saw screens that said, you don't have a bank account with this bank. And it's just like, oh my God, what? Are you kidding me?
Well, just the other day, Verizon was down. Like people could not use their phones. Like we literally could not get the texted 2-factor authentication codes that we could normally get because the cell service was just non-existent. So there are scenarios.
So creating all those questions around what are those everyday things that can break? How do we get around those? For instance, like 2-factor, there are ways to set up backup codes and to have multiple ways to authenticate. There are ways that are way more secure than others, like using an authenticator app or a dongle is the most secure way because it's physical to whatever and can't be intercepted. Text message is the next secure way. Believe it or not, those can be intercepted, but way harder than say somebody yelling it across a courtroom, you know, or a courtyard, you know. So it's like, what are the things that we can have in place that give us fail safes is really the way to think about it. If you have a storefront, the question is, what do I do if I don't have my storefront for X period of time? What do I do if I'm not able to work? If my ops director isn't able to work? What to do if my project management software fails and I don't have it for 10 days? You know, like what are my backups? Literally think about it like backing up your computer to have in place. But yeah, I think that's step one for me is developing all those questions and determining the priority in which to solve for them. I think number one, starting with yourself and your own revenue and then your team. And then after that, you know, prioritize what you and the team think is most important to move forward. That's where I'd probably start on that topic right there.
I love it. Like bringing it back to those that are already surrounding you and forging a plan together. Like, what does it look like now? Like if you're in a, if you're in a question of like, okay, what do we do next?
Look, having employees, if I can't work, my employees depend on me. You know what I mean? It's I want to make sure they're taken care of. So if I'm not there, is there something that's still tackling the things that need to happen so that my team is able to continue to do what they do and get paid? And my clients, are they getting what they need? And that's my team. So if my team is executing, my clients are getting what they need. so that my team is getting what they need. So like, that's where I start right there. And then how many days out can I go? I think it's really key for a business to build up a war chest of about a year's worth of expenses. I know that sounds insane to some to hear that, but if you have a year's worth of expenses, you pretty much can weather any storm.
Yep.
Pretty much, aside from something ridiculous, apocalyptic, which what's going on in North Carolina or have been going on in North Carolina with the things could and probably should be classified as apocalyptic. But if you've got a year's worth of expenses, I mean, you're talking inventory costs, you're talking processing costs, you're talking payroll, you're talking like all of these things, a whole year, you can rebuild if you want to at that point. And to have less than a year's worth of expenses, not that it's irresponsible, it takes a while to get there. But for me, that's my benchmark. I am trying to get to that level of having a year's worth of expenses. I'm not there. I'll be honest. I'm not. I'm building toward it. I've had some setbacks, and I am rebuilding that war chest. But the fact that I had, say, 6 months of expenses when I did a few months ago at the beginning of this year, when I had my not my flood or whatever. No, I'm not going to equate it to that. But when I had my setback, that 6 months of expenses is what has gotten me over this hump to be able to grow again and get to the next level. So it's really, really key to have that in place. That's like number one. I mean, how many financial gurus say have that safety? What do they call it? The safety savings account, the emergency account, your emergency fund. You've got to have your emergency fund. A business is no different. You need to have that. That's number one in resiliency. You've got to have that. And then after that, it's just your processes in place.
Yeah. I think in the processes too, just making sure don't count on just one frontline person of being able to communicate, because what if that person is also not able to communicate? So I know a lot of people would go to like a spouse or a friend or, something. Well, what if they can't? Like, you should always have a couple lines of defense.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
At least somebody to know this is what you need to do if I am not able to communicate with whoever in my business, and then have that point of contact. Like, who do they reach out to? And then you should have the plan of what happens, like what's triggered, what's the next steps. Yeah. I was just looking up because I was curious how many businesses actually have more than 6 months of expenses saved. Because I can tell you, we don't have 6 months saved.
We don't either right now because of what happened. We're building back up.
To get us places. So according to the Federal Reserve Small Business Credit Survey, they did this last year, only 10% of small businesses can cover more than 6%.
That's insane.
30% have enough for 3 to 6, and about 60% have less than 3 months of reserves.
I'm in that last category right now because of what happened, and I'm trying to get back up. It was so valuable having it.
Yep.
Because it's what gets you through so that you can get back to where you were and then continue going and not feel ridiculously stressed. It's crazy what stress does. We get panicked and then we start flailing and we don't do what we're supposed to do, which is do the same thing every day, do that routine, do your core processes. When you panic, you stop doing that and then you're not doing the right stuff. So when we had that backup, that emergency fund, that's what allowed us to know we're going to focus on what we know works. These are the right things to do. We may still feel the stress, but we know we have to do it and you have to give it time. And that's unfortunately true of a lot of things. And when you don't have time, it's hard to do it right. And so that emergency fund really gets you there. Yeah.
I mean, I can't even fathom. I can't even fathom what the business owners are going through right now in the Carolinas and Tennessee. And I mean, even those that, even those that are in, Florida, like I almost feel like Florida has gotten overlooked, and it may just be because of what I'm seeing, on media or whatever, but they were hit by the hurricane. And it just, I don't know, it brought it to the forefront for me of like, I can't even fathom it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really loud. Do you hear that beeping?
No.
Just in my ears, apparently.
You're so stressed out over this. You're hearing secret sounds.
What is that? Is that like an emergency warning? Oh my gosh. But yeah, so I feel for them. Get your contingency plans in place. At least have something, some sort of plan. Build up reserves where you can. And gosh, I don't even know. Just made me think about a lot of things when all this started happening.
Yeah, I know you say you don't even know, but you do is really it.
Yeah.
It's the desire to not have it to happen to us that makes us kind of say those things. And so, yeah, I know you're working really hard on it. We talk about it all the time, outside the podcast about like, oh, where are you at on like core processes? How are you doing on this piece? So yeah, I'm looking forward to you holding me accountable on this one a little bit more. But yeah, so yeah, just a quick recap. Core processes, have those documented because then other people can step in. 2, develop those questions and ways your business can fail. And then work on them from highest priority to lowest. In each of those questions, build out your plans in concentric circles based on length of time. If I didn't have it for 1 or 2 days, if I didn't have it for a week, month, 6 months, what is the plan and who's taking over for certain things in those areas? From there, just accept that there are some things you can't plan for. And if it's something you haven't planned for, there's probably a solution to what you already have planned for. Because when you have a lot of plans like that and a lot of fail safes, something can probably be picked up in there to keep things running. And then lastly, an emergency fund. Shoot for 6+ months. I like a year because that's what's going to get you through to the next phase. And from there, those are like really key steps to build up resiliency within your business, knowing who's taking over what piece if certain people are out and that they know how to do it. So yeah. Really important conversation in light of everything that's happening, and our thoughts and prayers are with all the families and people that are hit, because personally having my family hit with it, it's real, and I know it's difficult for them. So hoping that the disaster relief agencies do everything that they can to help everybody, and if you can, pitch in too.
Absolutely. I know. Cool. My family and I, we travel through that area frequently. So we're kind of hoping maybe we can get insight on what they need in the coming weeks and months. And I know my family said we'd go down there and volunteer. So whatever we can do, I can't even imagine, like I said. So.
Well, thanks for tuning in for another episode. If you're looking for ways that you can pitch in, we'll put some links into our show notes for what we're seeing are really good organizations and what they're doing. As always, I know that the Red Cross does a lot whenever disasters hit. FEMA, of course, and there are ways to donate to those organizations. So we'll put those in the show notes, and plus some others that we like. Otherwise, we are going to see you next week on the next episode of What the Biz. If there's a topic you'd like us to explore, hit up whatthebiz.com. We'd love your review on the platform where you listen, and we will see you next week. Goodbye.